Hi everyone, Chris Natzke here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week live on Facebook. Today what I want to do is talk about the concept of goal setting versus system implementation. And I've entitled this basically The Great Leaders Value Systems Over Goals. And what do I mean by that? Well, when I first became an entrepreneur about 24 years ago, leaving the corporate arena to open up my own martial arts school, one of the most profound books that I read, in fact, I still recommend it to coaching clients today, is a book called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And what Gerber speaks about in that is the importance of building systems in your business in order to make it viable, in order to make it profitable, in order to make it successful. And you know, when I first opened my martial arts school, like many entrepreneurs, I did everything. I taught all the martial art classes. I answered all the phone calls. I did all the introductory lessons and all the enrollments. I even emptied the garbage cans and swept the floor. But the fact of the matter is over some time, it worked at the beginning, but over time, as I began to grow in my business, it just wasn't viable. It just wasn't going to sustain itself. So what I had to do is pry those responsibilities out of my kung fu grip and actually hire some people and develop some systems to train them in how to do it. And when I did it, my business exploded. I mean, it was the quintessential thing that I could do to build my business. And I'm just so grateful for that. And I teach it when I coach people now. But what's been interesting is this week, as I've been doing my own mental, construct gym and personal development gym, if you will, and I listen to podcasts and I read articles and things, this idea of systems over goals kept coming up. It came up in a book, it came up in a video, so I thought, man, I really need to explore this. And this is what I want to chat about. Is that whole idea of systems in businesses is amazing, but it also is really important in our life. How many times have we set goals? And they're powerful goals, they're life-changing goals, but we never take them to fruition because we don't have the systems or the practices in place to make them happen. And so a goal is a great thing on a piece of paper and in your mind, but if you're not doing the work to get it done, it's just not going to happen. And I was reflecting on my own life and my own expertise in martial arts. So we can have a goal to be a black belt, but the way you get to be a black belt is through following the system of going to class several times a week over several years, by learning a color belt curriculum and showing proficiency in it, and then testing on a quarterly basis. That's a system. And just like in our own lives, I mean, we've got all sorts of opportunities where we set goals with, and if we want to release weight, we want to release 20 pounds, that's the goal, but the system is eating well and exercising. If we want to run a half marathon in a certain amount of time, that's the goal, but following a running regimen is the system. And if we want to have deeper relationships, in our most significant relationships, our spouses, our kids, our family, that's the goal, but the system is taking time each week and each day to connect with them. So it got me thinking about how we might be able to take this whole concept of systems and look at it a little bit deeper and challenge ourselves to really lean into this week. And I know when I share this with you, I'm looking at all these things on a constant basis as well. It's not like I have all these things figured out by any means, but what I've done is I think I've got a good grasp of where I want to go, and I'm certainly practicing these. So what I've done is I've taken a look at how we can develop system in 5 key areas in our lives. And they're inspired by an organization that I'm on the advisory board for called Be Men, and we have what we call our pillars of wellness. And so we're going to take a look at those 5 pillars and talk just a little bit about how you can develop systems in your life in order to reach where you want to be in those 5 areas. So the first one obviously is physical. Talked a little bit about that. And when we look at physical, we often look at the 3 things we can control, and that's rest, nutrition, and exercise. And I want to start with rest because, we all have a goal of being rested and being recovered, but how many of us have a system in terms of getting ready for sleep? We all have an idea of when we want to wake up in the morning because we all set an alarm, but do you have a system or a process for how you get ready for bed and when you go to sleep and when you disconnect from the computer and the television? Do you have a system for that? And if you want to release that weight, do you have a system to eat clean? Do you have a system for processing or preparing meals so you're not running out for fast food? Do you have a system for that? And then importantly, exercise. I realize that if I don't put it on my calendar, it's probably not going to get done. So do you have a consistent place and a consistent pieces in your life when you are exercising, when you're moving, and you're making it part of your schedule? And it becomes a system, because when you do that, then the weight release and the buildup of muscle, whatever you want it to be, that just comes naturally. So that's the physical. The next aspect that I wanted to share about is this idea of financial. And this is one I'm always challenged on and working on as well. But, when you run a business, do you have a system for creating new customers? I know I'm looking at this all the time. Or are you just kind of hoping that they show up? Is there a system for reaching out and reaching out to the people that you might be able to serve at a high level? And then from a standpoint of just personal finances, do you pay yourself first? Do you have areas where you have a systematic way of giving? Or are you kind of looking at it, well, I'll give and I'll save when I have more, when I have a little bit extra? And we all know that having a little bit extra probably never shows up. But is there a system? Is there a budget in terms of how you run your business and your personal finances? Number next is emotional. We are emotional beings. I mean, even if you're an introvert, or an extrovert, but introverts and extroverts, we all have this need for connection with other human beings. And you have a system to make that happen. I mean, we all say that we want to have better relationships with our significant others and our kids and our family, but you actually have a system to make that happen. Do you have date nights with your significant other? Do you have regular family outings if you still have kids at home? Or if you're like me, and your kids are grown and they're out of the house, do you have times in your calendar each month? I happen to do that. That's the best way for me to see my boys. On the 3rd and the 4th Friday of every month, I meet with Josh on the 3rd Friday. I meet with Jason on the 4th Friday, and that's our lunch time. And that's just our time to connect. And hopefully we have other times during the month where we do that, but that is in my calendar. It's a system. Number next is mental. One of the things I think that we can always do is continue to grow as leaders. And you've heard 1,000 times that leaders are readers. But do you have a system to constantly feed and work your intellect? Are you listening to podcasts? Are you reading a book each day, even if it's for 5 or 10 minutes, to continue to spur your growth? Because when we do that, when we stay sharp, it also opens us up to other things and other ideas that we can use as leaders, not only in our lives, but in our professions as well. So are you taking the time and do you have a system to continuously grow and expand one of our greatest assets, our mind? And then finally, what are you doing from a systematic standpoint to develop spiritually? And I don't mean just about going to church once a week, if you do, and that's not a bad thing. That might be a system. But do you have a daily practice? Are you spending some time doing inspirational or spiritual readings? Are you meditating? Is that a part of your day? And meditation doesn't need to be, sitting for an hour in the lotus position, oming. It could be just small snippets of quiet time where you're allowing yourself to center. But are you doing it daily? Is it part of a daily practice? Is it a system so that it can all be worked together to bring you to the highest realm that you were meant to express? So there you have it. That was my thought for today, is where can we really implement powerful systems in our lives so that we can have the impact mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, and spiritually in our lives. And that's what I had for you today. And so I challenge all of you this week, if you've got areas that you want to expand to that, it may not be all 5, but pick 1 or pick 2 and just practice it and expand from there so you can show up as being the champion you were meant to be. So thanks so much for joining me. I'm Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching. Oh, and by the way, if you're interested, if you look below on this post, you're going to see I'm doing a little soft introduction of my new Mind of a Champion home study course. And from now until the end of August, if you purchase it, you can get 50% off. It's basically my life's work. It's taking the 7 qualities of black belt leadership that I teach and putting them into a home study course so you can dig deep, you can go deeper and really expand and grow and live the life that you were meant to live. So there you have it, folks. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.